All right, we touched a little bit on this in some of my classes on what to do when we're given a table and how can we write the equation from the table. So in order to solve our equation or to rewrite our equation, we need two things. We need b, which is the y-intercept, and we need m, which is our slope, or rise over run. So in order to find those things, we can look at our table and usually be able to pull the values out of it. So in the first case, I like to go ahead and see if the y-intercept is obvious in the table. And in this case, it is. So we have this point right here, 0, 40. So in a coordinate pair, it would be written 0, 140. And that, I know it doesn't immediately look like it belongs on the y-axis, but if we think about our x and our y-axis, if we were to place this coordinate pair on the graph, we would go 0 on the x-axis, we would stay from the origin, and then it says to go 140 up. So we would go all the way to 140, and that would be our y-intercept. So right off the bat, we can take this 140 and place it in our B column. So the next thing is we have to be able to see the slope. And unfortunately, this one isn't as obvious. So we need to use the slope of a line formula. In this case, so one way we could do this, we could find our m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1, and that would give us our slope. So we can do that. I'm going to just go ahead and make this x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to plug those numbers into my skeleton that I'm drawing. So y2 is 120 minus y1 is 140. X2 is 5 and x1 is 0. So in this case, I'm going to simplify it just below it. So 120 minus 140 is a negative 20 over 5 minus 0, which is 5. So that's going to simplify, if I were to simplify this m, negative 20 divided by 5, that gives me a negative 4. And that's going to be substituted in for my m. So in order to complete the equation, we're going to add our y equals, and then after my negative 4, I'm going to add an x. And that is one way to solve for our equation. But in some cases, maybe you could always do it, or you could extend your table. But I'm going to show you how you can actually do this all in your calculator with just a few steps. So I'm going to go back to this one. So this is our same table, but what I'm going to do is show you how to take these numbers and put them into your calculator to end up calculating these answers. So I'm going to have the answers revealed in most of these slides. So what your goal is not just to write down the answers, but just to be able to find those answers on your own. So I'm going to switch over to my calculator, and might be a little bit different, but the functions will be the same, so it might look a little different. So stick with me here. So just going to remember that we have 0, 140. These are all, just remembering that these are all coordinate pair locations, right? 10, 100, and so on. All right, so here we go to our calculator. And in our calculator, this is just a little bit spread out, but what we're going to do is get to the button called Stat. So if you go all the way from the left, I don't have a pointer that I can use, but if you look over in the third row, first column, third row, we have alpha, and then we have this XT, beta, or whatever sign, and then we have this button that says Stat. So that's the button we're going to start with. You're going to push Stat. And then it's going to give you this list here. At the top of your screen, it'll say edit, calc, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit a list. Okay, so we're going to push 1 you'll push enter or you'll push the 1, you'll get to this list. And then you're going to have a bunch of columns, L1, L2, L3, and so on. And you may only see a few of these. But what we're going to do is assign our L1 as our X values. So as we look at our table, we have 0, 5, 10, 15, and 20 as our X values. So what I'm going to do is put those right into my calculator. So you see this blinking dot by the L1. It's in the above all of the buttons we see on the left corner. So I'm going to do 0, and then I'm going to push enter, and then that takes the 0 into our list. And then we have 5, enter, 10, enter, 15, enter, 20, enter, and then I think that was it. So now what we need to do is go over to our L2 column. So what you'll do is push the arrow over button, and that will take your cursor to the L2 column, which is going to be our Y values. So our Y values are decreasing, and it's going 140, 120, 100, 60, so decreasing by 20 each time. So let's go ahead and place those into our column. So 140, enter, and making sure that on the left in L1, that's the correct X value in the coordinate pair. 140, 120, 100, 80, and 60. So we have our full list here from 0 to 20 on the L1 for our X and 140 to 60 on our Y. So let's make sure those are right before. So we have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 140, 20, 100, and 80, and 60. So it's really important to check your two lists before you continue. So now we have our list completed. We have our L1 in our X column, our L1 for our X values, L2 for our Y values. And then we're going to go back to stat, which is from on the left side over, not alpha, not the X, but stat. And then since we're trying to calculate a equation, you're going to arrow over to calculate. I'm just going to push calc right here, and you're going to get this long list of things with a lot of words. So what we're trying to accomplish is a linear regression, which is the Mx+b formula. So if you look at these answered or these choices off to the side, 1 var stat, 2 var stat, 3 med, and then 4 says lin reg. So that says Ax+b, which is going to be the answer you want to choose. So now we have, it's saying our X, so in the top left corner of the screen, you'll see X list is L1, which is right, Y list, which is L2, which is right, and then everything else. So what we're going to do is you're going to push enter until you get to calculate. So now you see how my cursor is over the calculate, and then I push enter, and it's going to give me these values in order to use. So what is in place of the A is our slope. So we get this whole line here. We get this whole, or this box here with all of the information that we need. We have our A is -4, our B is 140, and then that other information is not something that we need to pay attention to. So that is all the information we needed to write our equation, which we had already solved before. And I know that may look like a lot of work at first, but here's the catch. We got the correct answers right here. We had which was our A was our -4, and our B was our 140. So that was in the calculator. So here's the catch. Entering all of those values, or what if you had a table that was super long, you don't want to enter them all. What you need to know, here's the part where it gets better. The thing you need to know is that in order to properly get your equation, you could only enter two values, or sorry, maybe not two values, but two complete coordinate pairs. So 2 complete coordinate pairs is the minimum in order to calculate a equation. So I'm going to do one more just using 2. So let's go to this next one. So on this one especially, we don't see any zeros, so we wouldn't be able to immediately identify that our b, or our y-intercept, is this 24 that's written over here. So these are our answers that we're going to try to get ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my calculator, and for just ease purposes, I'm going to choose these two coordinate pairs to put into my new table. Okay, going back to my table. So we're entering this screen, so in order to get back to our thing, hopefully you remember, we're going to push stat, which is not the alpha button, not the one to the right, but the third one over. And then we're in our calculate list, but now we're needing to edit a new list, so we're going to go back to edit, and then push edit. And then the problem is here, we have our list that's already here. So what we're going to need to do is clear our list. So if you're your cursor is in the left column in L1, you'll go ahead and scroll up so that your cursor is over the L1, and you'll push clear. You may have to push enter on your calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and clear both lists. So go ahead and clear both lists. Make sure your cursor goes back over to L1 and then scroll down. Now I already forgot my numbers. So our x values are going to be -6 and -5 in that order. So we'll go ahead and put -6, enter, and -5, enter. So then we're going to scroll over to the L2 column, which is our y values, and that's going to be 12 and 14, making sure that the coordinate pairs across from each other are the correct coordinate pairs there. So now we have our table filled out. We only needed 2. Then we're going to push stat again, so which is not alpha, not the XTO, but stat. And then we're going to go ahead and calculate. So we're going to go down to number 4. And then we're going to push enter until we get to the calculate. So enter, it's just saying check that X list is L1, check that Y list is L2, and then once we get to calculate, you push enter, and then we get that our A value, which is our slope, is 2, and our B value is 24. And that is what we should have gotten. So we didn't need to, we only need two coordinate pairs. So you could have chosen any 2. You could have chosen the first one and the last one. You could choose the third one and the fourth one, anything like that. But your final equation will look like this: y equals 2x plus 24. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and scroll through a few more problems that I would like you to try on your own. Again, the answers are listed because I want you to make sure that as you put these information into the calculator, you can end up with the correct y equals Mx+b formula. Okay, so pause the video and work on that one. Pause and work on this one. Pause and work on this one. And again, make sure if you're struggling with the calculator portion of it, go ahead and go back to the beginning and watch one more, watch the example again of how I worked through the calculator. Okay. And I think that takes us to our last one. So hopefully this helps, and good luck.